The warning signal, the alarm shattered. The quiet routine of Outpost Sentinel 9. With a sound that hadn't been heard in 23 years, Commander Thelvar's four-fingered hand froze over her data tablet as crimson warning lights painted the command center in urgent red pulses. Around her, dozens of coalition officers from 7 different species looked up from their stations with expressions ranging from confusion to concern. "Report," Thelvara commanded, her voice steady despite the cold fear spreading. Through her chest, she was a Krello, tall and slender with silver-blue skin that darkened when stressed. Right now, patches along her neck were turning deep. Indigo, Sensor Officer Mixter, a young Quellan with iridescent scales, checked his display 3 times before speaking. "Commander, we have detected an incoming vessel on an intercept course with our station. The energy signature matches human military specifications. It's a destroyer-class warship designated Vindication." The command center went silent. Every officer old enough to remember the war felt their blood run cold. "Velocity?" Thelvara asked quietly. 87 light speed and accelerating. "Current projection has them reaching our position in 4 hours and 17 minutes. Mixter's voice cracked slightly. "Commander, that speed should be impossible for a vessel that size. Our physics models say it should tear itself apart." Thelvara closed her eyes briefly. She had been a junior tactical officer during the Human Coalition War, serving aboard the dreadnought Infinite Dawn. That ship had been part of a fleet of 60 Coalition vessels sent to blockade the human home system. Only 9 ships had returned. She still had nightmares about watching human destroyers dance through their formations like predators among prey, moving in ways that violated every tactical doctrine the Coalition had developed over 10,000 years of space faring civilization. Commander spoke. Her second-in-command, a stocky Borlean named Krent, whose rocky skin made him nearly indestructible in physical combat. "We have 15 patrol ships docked here, and our station defenses are state-of-the-art. Surely we can mount an adequate defense if the humans prove hostile." Thelvara looked at Krent with something between pity and frustration. "You weren't there," she said softly. "You didn't see what they can do." She turned to face the entire command crew. "I want all civilian vessels evacuated immediately. All non-essential personnel are to leave the station within the hour. Military personnel will remain at stations, but under no circumstances is anyone to power weapons or adopt an aggressive posture unless I give direct authorization." "But Commander," Krent began. "That is an order," Thelvara interrupted, her voice hard as titanium. "You read about the war in history files. I lived through it. A human destroyer can disable this entire station before our targeting systems even finish their lock sequence. They have reflexes we cannot match, weapons technology we still don't fully understand, and a tactical creativity that makes our best strategists look like children playing with toys." She pulled up a holographic display showing the approaching vessel. "More importantly, humans don't send warships without reason. They're precise, methodical, and they follow rules of engagement more strictly than most Coalition species. If they're coming here, something has happened. Something serious." Communications Officer Pelletrix, a graceful Sylvian whose translucent skin showed the bioluminescent patterns of her thoughts, raised one delicate hand. "Commander, I'm detecting an automated broadcast on all Frequencies, it's from the human vessel. Play it. A human voice filled the command center, speaking in perfect Coalition standard, the universal language of their corner of the galaxy. The voice was male, calm but carrying an undertone of barely controlled fury. This is Captain James Rivera of the United Earthship Vindication to all Coalition forces in Sector 793. We are searching for the research vessel Meridian, which departed Earth Station Europa 14 days ago, carrying a crew of 50 scientists on a peaceful exploration mission to catalog the Zephyr Nebula. The Meridian's last transmission was from coordinates inside neutral space, approximately 40,000 km from your position. The transmission was cut off mid-sentence, and our long-range sensors detected weapons fire consistent with Coalition plasma cannons. If anyone has information about the Meridian or her crew, you are ordered to respond immediately. This is not a request. The message ended, and Thilvara felt her heart sink. She turned to Mixter. Pull up all patrol logs from the past 2 weeks. I want to know every Coalition vessel that operated in that sector. Mixter worked quickly, his scales shifting through worried color patterns. Commander, I have the logs. 3 days ago, Patrol Group Theta 7 reported engaging an unidentified vessel in the neutral zone. The commanding officer was Captain Vornesh of the cruiser Relentless Pride. His report states they encountered a vessel operating suspiciously near restricted military zone and fired warning shots. The vessel attempted to flee, and they pursued and destroyed it. Did they identify the vessel before firing? Delvara demanded. Mixter's silence was answer enough. Finally he whispered, the report says they assumed it was a smuggling operation. They never ran an identification scan. Commander, the debris field coordinates match exactly where the human transmission originated. Thilvara sat down heavily in her command chair. Vorn was a notorious hardliner, one of the Coalition officers who believed humans were still primitive war-armongers who had gotten lucky during the war. He commanded a faction that wanted to challenge Earth's growing influence in the galaxy, and now his recklessness might have just started a second war. Where is Captain Vornesh now? She asked, though she dreaded the answer. His patrol group returned to the station yesterday. All 3 ships are currently docked in Bay 7. Through the viewport, Thilvara could see distant stars being eluded one by one as something massive approached, traveling faster than anything the Coalition could build. The Vindication was coming, and aboard it was a captain who believed his people had been murdered. She had 4 hours to prevent a catastrophe. The alarm continued its relentless wail, and Thilvara began preparing for the most difficult negotiation of her life. Raining. Captain James Rivera stood on the bridge of the Vindication, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the Coalition station grow larger on the main view screen. It was 42 years old, with close-cropped black hair showing threads of gray and dark as that had seen too much death for one lifetime. Lost his wife to a mining accident on Titan 7 years ago, and space had become his home. The crew, his family, now 50 of humanity's brightest minds, were dead, and someone was going to answer for it. Captain, the Coalition station is hailing us, reported Lieutenant Sarah Chun, his communications officer. She was young, barely 30, with sharp intelligence, and a calm demeanor that Rivera valued highly, put them through. The view screen shifted to show a crowd, female and a coalition commanders. Uniform, Hkin showed stress patterns, but her eyes were steady and honest. Divra had learned to read alien expressions during his 20 years in the fleet, and this one projected both fear and determination. Captain Rivera, I am Commander Tilvara of Outpost Sentinel Anning. He received your message regarding the research vessel Meridian. She paused, and Rivera saw something that surprised him. Genuine regret, Captain. I have reviewed our patrol logs. 3 days ago, one of our patrol groups encountered an unidentified vessel, the neutral zone, and destroyed it without proper identification protocols. You believe they killed your people by mistake? Rivera's jaw tightened, but his voice remained level. You believe? I am certain. Corrected. The coordinates match exactly. The commanding officer, Captain Borneas, violated at least 7 coalition regulations and multiple interspecies treaties. Captain Rhea, I fought in the war against your people. You know what you're capable of. I'm not going to lie to you or make excuses. A coalition officer committed an act of criminal negligence that resulted in the deaths of 50 innocent humans. I am prepared to turn over Captain Bourne and his crew for trial under the Intersize Justice Accords. Hadn't expected that. He'd prepared for denial, for stonewalling, for the political maneuvering that had poisoned relations between Earth and the coalition for years. It hadn't prepared for immediate accountability. I need to see the evidence, he said. Carefully, I'm transmitting all relevant logs, sensor data, and communications records now. I'm also providing you with the location of Captain Bora's ships. They red docked at this station. Dilva's expression hardened. Captain, I want justice for your people. Not because I fear your weapons, though I do, but because it's the right thing to do. Boers and officers like him have been agitating for conflict with Earth. For years, they represent everything wrong with the old coalition, the arrogance that led us to start a war we couldn't win. He wanted to predict them. Rivera studied the data flowing across his tactical display, his science officer, Dr. Marcus Webb, a gray-haired veteran with 3 doctorates, worked through the information quickly. Captain, it's all here. Patrol logs show they fired on an unarmed vessel without proper identification. The debris field composition matches the Meridian's construction specifications exactly. And Sir B's voice dropped. There was no attempt at rescue. They destroyed the ship and left the debris field without investigating for survivors. Cold ray settled in Rivera's chest, but he kept it contained. Humanity had learned hard lessons about letting anger drive decisions. Commander Tilv, I appreciate your cooperation. However, I need to verify this information independently. I'm sending a team to examine the debris field. Of course, EJ provide you with full sensor access and any assistance you require. I also want to interview Captain Borneas personally. Tilbara hesitated for only a moment. That may be complicated. When Borneas learned of your approach, he sealed himself and his crew aboard their ships. He's refusing to surrender, claiming this is a human plot to undermine coalition sovereignty. Bria's tactical officer, Commander Lisa Torres, leaned forward. Captain, their 3 patrol ships are no match for us. We can disable them in under 2 minutes. without destroying them. No, Rivera said firmly, this is coalition space, and I won't start a firefight unless absolutely necessary. He looked at Tilbara. Commander, this is your station and your officer. How do you want to handle this? Tilbara seemed surprised by the question. By being given authority in the situation. She threatened to give me 30 minutes if I cannot convince Boris to surrender peacefully. I'll authorize you to disable his ships with minimal force. Ryber, you have your 30 minutes. The view screen shifted back to exterior view, and Rivera watched as dozens of small ships departed from the coalition station. Civilian evacuating, preparing for potential violence. It didn't blame them. The Vindication carried enough firepower to reduce the entire station to debris if necessary. But that wasn't justice. That was revenge. 28 minutes later, Dilbara contacted him. Again, Captain Rivera, Captain Bors has refused my final order to surrender. I'm hereby authorizing you to disable his vessels under Article 7 of the Intereses Justice Accords, which permits the use of necessary force to apprehend suspected war criminals. He only asks that you minimize casualties. Understood, Commander. All hands battle stations. Tactical target the patrol ships. Engines and weapon systems only. Precision strikes, no overkill. The Vindication moved with deadly grace. Waiting 90 seconds. 3 coalition patrol ships were floating dead in space, their crews alive but helpless. Boarding teams secured Bornis and his officers without firing a shot. When they brought Bourne to the brig, Rivera went to see him. The coalition captain was a massive Borlean, his rock-like skin making him look like a living statue. He says, burned with hatred. You think you've won, human? Bourne snarled, this will start a war. My people will never accept this humiliation. Bria looked at him with cold eyes. You murdered 50 unarmed scientists. You didn't check their identification. You didn't offer assistance. You just killed them and ran. That's not war, Captain. That's Kobaris. It turned to leave, then paused, and for the record, Commander Telvara is the one who turned you over. Judan people decided you weren't worth protecting. Think about that while you wait for trial 3 days later after recovering what remains they could from the debris field and holding a memorial service for the Meridian's crew. The Vindication departed outpost Sentinel Anning. Commander Telvara watched it go, feeling both relief and a strange sense of hope. Perhaps the war had taught both sides something valuable after all. Captain Rivera sat in his ready room, looking at the photos of the Meridian's crew that covered his wall. 50 faces, 50 lads cut short by stupidity and arrogance. Husty would be served, but it wouldn't bring them back. It never did. But that was something, and sometimes something was enough. Then